Something remarkable is unfolding in global politics right now. Donald Trump launched a war with Iran without consulting allies, without preparing the global economy, and without ensuring that key partners would stand with him. And now, as the situation begins to spiral, Trump is asking the world for support, but the response has been striking. The world is refusing. One country after another is declining to join the war effort. Germany, France, Italy, Australia, Japan, and even the United Kingdom. And at the center of this growing resistance stands a leader who made his position clear from the very beginning, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. Carney was among the first to openly reject the idea that Canada should support Trump's war ambitions. And now, it appears much of the world is moving in the same direction.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney just said in very clear terms inside Parliament, quote, Canada will never participate in an Iran offensive with the United States. Canada will never participate in an Iran offensive, period. This is a very important statement from Prime Minister Carney. He was rightfully getting a lot of criticism for his statements right after the United States invaded Iran, where Prime Minister Carney suggested that he was potentially supportive of the United States unlawful war. I know a lot of Mighty, a lot of the Mighty in Canada were kind of upset at Prime Minister Carney, and they were saying, where was the Carney we saw at Davos?
The crisis began when Donald Trump initiated a military confrontation with Iran, a decision that stunned many of America's allies, not because tensions with Iran were new, but because the move appeared to come without coordination, consultation, or preparation with the very allies now being asked to step in. The immediate impact was chaos across global energy markets. Iran responded by halting traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping routes in the world. Nearly 20% of global oil exports pass through that narrow channel. And the moment shipments were disrupted, energy prices surged worldwide. Suddenly, the global economy was facing a crisis capable of triggering inflation, disrupting supply chains, and destabilizing entire markets. But instead of rallying behind Washington, many countries began asking a different question. Why should they help resolve a crisis they were never consulted on in the first place?
24. U.S. allies are reacting with caution or just flat out refusing a request from Donald Trump to help secure oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has almost entirely halted traffic in the critical waterway, which usually accounts for about 20% of the world's oil exports, sending crude prices soaring across the globe. Early in the day, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said his country would not be drawn into a wider war.
Donald Trump's response was direct. He called on allies to send naval forces and military support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but the reaction from Europe was immediate and decisive. Germany rejected the proposal outright. Italy signaled it would not participate. Spain declined any military involvement, and even America's closest allies began making it clear they would not join a broader conflict. European leaders explained their position plainly. They did not start this war, and they have no intention of being drawn into it. One German official summed it up bluntly: why should a small number of European ships be expected to resolve a crisis that even the U.S. Navy cannot manage alone? The message from Europe was unmistakable. This is Trump's war, and the world is not lining up behind it.
France has been non-committal, while Germany, Italy, Australia, and Japan have all said they would not help reopen the strait. Now, the sharpest refusal to Trump's request came from Germany. Take a listen to what the country's defense minister had to say earlier.
What does the world expect? What does Donald Trump expect from, let's say, a handful or two handful of European frigates in the Strait of Hormuz that the powerful American Navy cannot accomplish there alone? We didn't start this war. We want diplomatic solutions and a swift end.
But what makes this moment especially significant is who helped shape this response. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. From the very beginning, Carney made it clear that Canada would not be pulled into a reckless conflict. Instead, he emphasized diplomacy, international coordination, and a global response focused on stability rather than escalation. That position resonated with leaders across Europe and Asia, who were already uneasy with Trump's approach. And now, that alignment is becoming visible. Carney recently met with the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, reinforcing a growing partnership between Canada and European allies focused on cooperation rather than confrontation. He also held talks with Germany's Chancellor, another key voice opposing escalation. Together, these leaders are forming something increasingly influential, a coalition of countries that believe global security should be built through diplomacy and alliances, not unilateral wars. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Country after country is rejecting Trump's request for military involvement. Leaders within the European Union are discussing diplomatic pathways instead of escalation. Even proposals to expand existing naval missions were quickly dismissed. The reason is simple. Many governments fear that even limited involvement could pull them into a conflict that could rapidly spiral beyond control. Instead, the global focus is shifting toward de-escalation, and in many ways, that approach reflects exactly what Mark Carney has been advocating. Diplomacy first, alliances second, and war only as a last resort.
We have a situation which we did not provoke, which we don't cause at all. This war started without any consultations before. We have a big responsibility, a very important responsibility for the eastern flank and the high north, and we stay committed to that, but we can't be anywhere on the world, and we can't be at every place to support a war which we didn't start. So it is about to find ways to solve the situation.
What we are witnessing may represent something far larger than disagreement over a single conflict. It may signal the emergence of a new diplomatic alignment, a group of countries increasingly willing to coordinate independently of Washington when U.S. leadership becomes unpredictable. Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, much of the European Union, and several Indo-Pacific partners all share a common goal: maintaining global stability and preventing regional conflicts from expanding into wider wars. And many of these countries appear to view Mark Carney as a leader capable of helping bring that coalition together. This moment could mark the beginning of a broader shift in global politics. For decades, when Washington made a decision, its allies were expected to follow. But Donald Trump's approach is changing that dynamic. Launching a conflict without consultation and then demanding support afterward has left many governments questioning whether they can rely on U.S. leadership in the same way. And that is where Carney's role becomes increasingly important. While Trump has been applying pressure and escalating tensions, Carney has been strengthening alliances, building partnerships, and pushing for diplomacy over conflict. Now the results are becoming clear. Germany refusing participation, European leaders rejecting escalation, and countries across the world searching for diplomatic solutions. Together, these developments suggest something remarkable. Instead of rallying behind Donald Trump's war, the world may be rallying around a different model of leadership, one built on cooperation, alliances, and stability. And increasingly, that leadership is being associated with Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. If you want clear, in-depth analysis of the biggest geopolitical shifts shaping Canada and the world, make sure you subscribe to Trade Insight and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next report.